Hey, y'all, and welcome to the Get My Life Tour. It is me, your host, Lydia T. Blanco. And as always, I'm so hyped, I'm grateful, I'm elated that you decided to show up and take center stage with me here on the Get My Life Tour. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Thank you for carving out time of your day to take center stage in your life. Look, the Get My Life Tour is all about showing up for yourself, practicing vulnerability. We are firm believers here that how you live your life is your business. And so thank you for showing up and making that your business and taking center stage in your life. Okay. If you are returning, thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you for being back. I rock with you. Yes, I rock with you. Okay. Y'all, can you believe it has been 3 years since we have been showing up and taking center stage? Yes, 3 years. Uno, dos, tres. 3 años since we have been on the Get My Life tour. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for all of the engagement. There was a moment where I dropped t-shirts. I appreciate y'all purchasing and rocking how you live your life is your business and really building community with me. Y'all, in 2019, I decided to have the intimate conversations that I was having, in private, publicly, and began to, push out this podcast. And I was like, I don't know what this is going to be like. I just want to fulfill some of my childhood dreams and have these really dope conversations and really help build community through my storytelling, but also get a lot of the answers to the questions that life posed to me that I didn't have through conversation with others. And I am proud to say that that is exactly what we have been doing over the last 3 years. Oh, 3 years in the podcasting industry, fun. I feel like I'm still a rookie, but I definitely, have been earning my stripes. So I just want to thank you again. Look, everyone who has taken center stage, either as a guest or a listener, those who have been tuned in from all over the world, thank you for showing up. Thank you for being who you are and for showing up the way that you do. When I said 20, when I said yes in 2019, everything began to shift, like everything began to shift. And there is no way that I could remain the same since taking center stage, deciding to come up on stage and approach the mic. Sometimes I'm like, oh, do I have anything to offer? And I'm like, Lydia, you always have something to offer. And so I really do appreciate the way that you all listen to, with your heart. There has been so much that I have learned over the last 3 years, and I want to share some of that with you. At first, I was like, am I going to recap the last 3 years? And I was like, nah, we do that. That's the end of season recap. But because I truly could not remain the same since first, publishing that episode where I was like real cringy on my couch here in Harlem. And I was like, I'm so afraid. Oh, Lydia, speak up. Say it with your chest. I want to share some of that with you, right? Because it's one thing to just do something that you've wanted to do for a while, but to actually do something boldly and courageously that you've been called to do and has been a desire of your heart, it's a beautiful challenge and there is so much to be gained. And so one of the things that I have really carried with me, and it's something that I thought I knew, but over the last 3 years, I've been like, oh no, baby, is understanding my worth and knowing that I'm enough. And so in true Lydia form, I want to affirm you and let you know that you are enough, right? I think sometimes we forget because it's easy to default to, scarcity mindset. And I say it so confidently because it really is, case in point. Since entering this new chapter in my life, I'm like, Lydia, presentation is so important to you. Let's show up each and every time, right? I don't feel the need to always be on, but being neat, looking my best, how I show up, exuding, my femininity and all these great things are really important to me. And so I've been out looking for things. I'm like, all right, let's invest a little bit more in the quality of our clothes. Let's do less fast fashion, blah, 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 blah. Let's get this routine and, all of the things that we need to maintain it. And it's been hard to find things. Now I'm talking about material things, but the psychological is also inserted into that, because I have honestly been struggling when I cannot find things. I'm like, y'all, why is it so hard to find quality items, right? And then sometimes little Lydia comes up and is like, well, it's so hard to find this because of our shape and our height and our thighs and this butt. And do I and what I have been reminded of is to come out of that thinking, right? Just because you don't have everything you think you need doesn't mean that you're lacking or that you aren't enough, right? And I know this is material, but that psyche always kicks in. And so I want to affirm, as you look for things, as you seek yourself, as you return home to yourself, as you show up and do what you've been called to do in those moments when you are preparing, in those moments when you are taking inventory and you're thinking about how you are going to show up, when you realize that you may not have everything that you want or need in that moment, remember that you are still enough. I had to really work on that, especially at the inception of the Get My Life tour, because I was working in, the national media circuit, an internationally recognized brand. And I was like, oh, maybe I could leverage. And because I've done this, maybe people will be more receptive towards that. And I had to unlearn that, right? Like, yes, leverage up, use what you have, but at the same time, understand your value proposition, understand your worth, and that you are enough in a way where you don't have to rely on leveraging something, right? Just show up in your fullness and own it. Sometimes it can be so challenging or difficult to do your own thing because of the way you think of yourself. It ain't nobody but you. It's you. You're the problem. It's you. And you're not a problem, right? But it's really the way you think that can be problematic. And so changing my thinking, changing my mindset about enough, right? I think the root word of enough is satisfaction. And knowing that you are enough is major, okay? Super major. Something else that really has been poignant for me since showing up here on the Get My Life tour is going by yourself. Okay. This idea of having to go some places by yourself. I spend so much time by myself, even on my Get My Life tour. Okay. My personal tour, I spend a lot of time. Some of you all know I'm bicoastal, right? And one of my affirmations has become, I'm home in my body, right? I'm at home in my own body. And oh, sometimes when you stepped up, you realize how far you stepped away from certain people, places, behaviors, mindsets. And it means that you have to be all one with yourself, right? I think sometimes we forget how lonely the road can become, but you don't necessarily have to feel alone, but you do have to go by yourself, right? The moment I said yes to being on tour, I was like, oh, I actually have to go. Right. And when you're on your way, there are some things that you can pack, other things that you can't. Not everybody, wants to travel. Some people may have a fear of flying, or they're not down for the road trip, or they don't like walking long distances. And I have had to come to terms with that as I show up for myself. Right. Yes, pack light. Yes, have some sense of direction, but also learn to not become frustrated with yourself or the process at extreme measures, right? Because it's sometimes easy to become frustrated when you are redirected. And I've learned to not become offended when people don't want to go with me somewhere. I literally have some of the best times when I go places by myself, be it events, destinations, anywhere, literally a walk by myself, right? Spending that alone time with myself is so renewing. Of course, I get to connect with the divine, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, right? There's so many learnings, but I have really had to learn to go by myself. And I hope that you become comfortable going some places by yourself as well, right? I remember hearing a word and it was saying, there are some things that you don't need to be on this trip. And I was like, wait a second, are they talking about the Get My Life tour? But listen, there are some things that you don't need to be on this trip, right? And maybe it's the complainer, maybe it's the person who is always anxious about going. Maybe it's the person who is invitational, right? Sometimes being those things can slow us down on our journeys. And there are so many things that I could not be on this Get My Life tour, okay? I can't be fearful. And in moments where fear arises, I have to do a lot of things afraid. You know what I'm saying? Um, I can't be someone who is asking everyone to come and tune in and do all these things because it has already been written, right? And so what will be, will be. And having that mentality really checks me at times because I'm like, look, I guess I can't be that. I can't be so consumed. I can't be so worried. I can't be overzealous. I can't be pretentious. I can't try to be anyone else but myself. Y'all are not having it. I'm not having it. Okay. This is what you get. And so there are some things that you cannot be on this trip. That is a word for me. I hope that is a word for you. It is real. We have to really be transformed, by the renewing of our minds. Like I said, there is no way that I could show up the same way that I do now that I did 3 years ago. It cannot. All the people who have taken center stage, all the ways that you all have shown up, there's no way that I could be the same. And I'm so grateful that I'm not in the same place that I was 3 years ago. Oh my gosh, 3 years ago, I found myself in love, more in love than I thought the person was. Oh my gosh, 3 years ago, I was trying to do so much. I thought 2019 was one of the best years of my life at that point. And while I can still claim that, I'm just like, yo, it gets better. It definitely gets better. Okay. That is all the encouragement that I need today. Reminding myself that it gets better. There are so many places I was like traveling, but I realized how much all of that took a toll on me. And so appreciating being still and now appreciating all the things that I cannot be on this trip is so real for me. Y'all, I got some notes. So if you see me, look, I'm like, okay, look, one of the things that I really hold true is not asking for permission. And so I've stopped asking for permission over the last 3 years. I really have. I'm like, why am I asking? And when I find myself asking for certain permissions, I'm like, oh, let's reword that. I love when the aunties or your mama and them be like, are you asking me or are you telling me? And I'm just like, oh, I remember hearing that as a little girl and being like, oh, wow, that's a really bold question. Or, you know, kind of cringing a little bit when I thought that I was asking something, but I was actually telling someone. Now I'm just like, oh, so I'm actually telling you. And I'm going to be mindful of my tone and the words that I choose. But I want to let you know, I think it's good to inform you, right? But we waste so much time asking for permission because then we begin to play out the response or how somebody's going to act and all these things, the worst case scenarios, 9 times out of 10. And it's like, well, if you prepare and then you let people know what it is that you're going to do or your plans, whatever the case may be, then it positions you differently. So, y'all, I literally have not been asked. I can't think of the last thing. No, I don't remember the last thing I asked permission for. Now, there are certain ways that I'm courteous, right? If I'm at someone's house and I want to know, is this okay? I was touching my line sister's fiance's computer, and I was like, is it okay for me to actually open this up? Right. And I was asking that because I needed direction and I didn't want to, go somewhere and something pop up and then it create like a moment, right? Not to say that this person is engaged in anything wild, but sometimes you want to, just be mindful and courteous, right? So you set yourself up for success and you make sure that you're protecting the person who you're engaging with. And so there are those instances, but stop asking for so much permission. Also, stop apologizing. Apologize when you're wrong. But that I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I think my I'm sorry is like, I'm sorry. What? Not I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. The way you are positioning yourself, it's like, I don't know if I want to call it like spiritual or mental posture, but correct that. Correct it. Sit up straight. Maybe there's something that you don't understand. Maybe that maybe there's a way that you needed to be excused, but stop apologizing. You know, thank them. Thank them for their patience. Thank them for whatever it is. Excuse yourself, but do not apologize religiously. Don't be a part of that congregation because you're gonna play yourself and people are gonna perceive you a certain way. And so look, it's real. All right, I have more. You know, oh, this one right here came up for me in an incredible session that I had with an advisor, and she reminded me to pass the baton. And that is what I really feel like has been happening over the last 3 years. But I'm working on more of the passing of the baton in my life to the younger versions of myself. And I was reminded that all of those versions are with me, rooting for me. And when they show up, I get to engage with them at this point in my life and let them know how we are going to act accordingly, right? Sometimes they serve as guides. Other times I'm like, all right, I hear you. Let me get you in order because you can't show up right now, okay? The other day, little Lydia was kicking, okay, and screaming. And I was like, hold on, sis. I need you to relax for just a moment. Relax. And then having that moment, I was like, okay, Lydia, you got this. A lot of me being on tour has been, in a way, so healing for me, right? And those reminders, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm passing the baton to the Lydia who showed up the last time here center stage. Lydia who was cringy on her couch, afraid to speak into the microphone 3 years ago. Like, that is who I am doing this for. And I really hope that you begin to do more of what you love and what you've been called to do for the younger versions of yourself as well. That inner child work is so important. And I believe it's what is going to get us to the next levels in our lives, to the next stages in our lives, the next arenas. Okay. I'm trying to sell out arenas for little Lydia. Okay. I'm like, what up? Okay. And so that is so important for me. I remember just second guessing myself so much when starting this. And the amount of people who have said yes has literally blessed my being. Okay. And I know for a fact have blessed you as well. I hear it in the comments, you know, be it, in my DMs or whatever, wherever y'all speak to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, what? And so I'm so grateful, right, that I'm passing the baton. I'm going to continue to pass the baton and pass the mic, drop the mic, all of those things. The last 3 years have really been transformative for me, right? Just getting started, saying yes, showing up, and really having a support system. I made a reel the other day about being 3 years in and the people who encouraged me to, you know, create the graphic, those who may have given me feedback. And you can't do this by yourself. Yes, I have been like doing a lot behind the scenes, but my support system of people who are praying for me, who are tuning in, who are like, okay, consistency. I'm like, yes. That is so helpful, right? Because my rhythm has had to change, right? And so that is one of the things that I have learned. You know, it is okay to change your cadence. I remember going so hard for the first 2 years, 2.5 years, publishing content every Monday. Monday at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, 3 a.m. Pacific, and whatever time zone that is globally, right? Or those are globally. And just hitting my mark. Whether I was traveling for work, it didn't matter what I was doing to get my life tour was publishing on Monday and still publishes on Mondays, just not every Monday. And being nervous about my cadence changing. I was like, okay, I need to communicate this and I hope people understand. And I really wrestled with the idea of being inconsistent. And I was like, Lydia, just because your cadence changes this. What? Blooper. Just because your cadence changes doesn't mean you are inconsistent. That relates to the Get My Life tour. That relates to how I show up in relationship with others in every area of my life. As long as you are communicating those changes, people will understand. I appreciate you all for understanding that, because there are so many things that I have been setting out to do. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, I want to pick three. Shout outs to Randy Zuckerberg, who I would love to have a conversation with. But she talks about the pick three method. And I'm like, okay, Lydia, what three things are you going to do well today? Right. And now, as I go throughout the rest of my journey, as I continue to show up, I'm like, it is okay to change your cadence. You can only do so many things very well. And while I do believe I can have it all, I can't have it all every day in every moment. And so I'm like, okay, Lydia, it is okay. And I want to remind you and encourage you that it is okay to change your cadence, communicate those changes, but do what is honestly best for you. I have been doing what is best for me since being on my personal tour. I have to. I'm very accommodating. I'm very kind and warm, and I look out for others because that's what I desire to have reciprocated in every area of life. But you have to do what is best for you. I can't be on tour if I'm not here. Okay. I don't have a succession plan yet for the Get My Life tour. Some people are like, oh, you should. It's a good business practice. But right now, it's me. I'm in it. Now, I probably should, because I don't want nobody, my mentors, to be like, okay, you don't have to, we're getting there. We are getting there. But honestly, those things are okay. Oh, there's so much that I have learned, y'all. There really is. And there's so much more that I'm like, just so eager to share. But I think I'm honestly going to drop the mic right now. Like, do you feel it? I feel it. I think I'm gonna drop the mic. Or maybe it's not my mic drop moment. But I wrote this down. So I'm gonna read it like I wrote it. Stop to acknowledge how far you've come. You can reflect on all of the things without necessarily looking back and thinking of the ways that you could, of course, correct. Celebrate yourself. That is a goal of mine. I wrote this down. I'm like, this is a goal of mine, but it is honestly something that I want to share with you, because I honestly have struggled with the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And I'm like, oh man, I could. And And that takes away from the moment. It's okay to be reflective. I think taking inventory in that way helps us put into perspective all the things that we have done. It's like, oh my gosh, I can look back, create that mental highlight reel for yourself. And I encourage you not to put a but in there. That was that moment of pause. I was like, how do I say this without using the word but first? Right? Don't do this to yourself as you remember. Do this and practice those moments of gratitude, right? We have come a long way. You have come a very long way. Over the last 3 years, I literally thank the Most High for how far I have come. And I don't go back and I'm like, nope, it was already written. It is what it is. We learn from it. I don't have to present those moments because it's counterproductive. It's counterproductive to practice gratitude and then become critical of the things that you could have done differently. No, the moment is the moment because of what happened. You don't have to now think about what you could have done differently, excuse me. And now, what are you going back and forth for? You're here. You arrived. You are the moment. Okay. And so I really hope that encourages you. I really do, because sometimes we spend so much time thinking that we're reflecting, but what we're really doing is tearing ourselves down. We are going back and reverting into some of those old patterns and behaviors and mindsets and can't even practice being fully present, which really sucks. To sum that all up, I'll say this: don't practice gratitude while practicing old habits. It absolutely makes no sense. I want to go so many places on this tour personally with y'all, and I'm looking forward to all of the places we will go. I'm thinking of one of my favorite books by Dr. Seuss, Oh, the Places You'll Go. I'm so hopeful. I'm beginning to I've already begun to do that, but just continuing the process of visualization, of prayer and meditation, and building community, and really planning and doing my diligence in all of the things that is required for this to go exactly where my heart really hopes for it to go. I'm like, yes, come on. I'm like, we're going to get tapped. We're doing this. Traveling set, growth, expansion, network, YouTube TV, all the things. I'm writing down, I'm saying it out loud. I'm saying it right now. So if you hear me, if you see me, whatever. But look, I'm so excited the places that you're going. And I want to know where you're going. I want to hear the ways that you've been transformed by the Get My Life tour. I'm looking forward to those who are taking center stage next. There are some incredible guests. I was like, Lydia, do not prolong this episode because there's so much that I can say, but there's so much that I need to do in preparation for where this is going. Planning for the next 3 years, okay? A little bit more immediately than that, the next 3 months, and just the continuance of this season here on the Get My Life tour, but here in my heart and just in this season of life. Y'all, I cannot thank you enough for the ways in which you show up. Thank you for being on tour. Thank you for listening in all of the countries, the cities, the states, the amount of time that you listen, all the downloads. My heart is so full. My heart is so full. And I'm lost for words now. Look, as always, stay connected. Email me, join me at thegetmylifetour.com. At me, at the Get My Life Tour, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts, download, subscribe, leave comments, slide into the Get My Life Tour accounts, DMs, all right? And to stay connected with me, on Facebook by Lydia T. Blanco, on Instagram at Lydia T. Blanco. I didn't know how this stop was going to go, but I feel like I'm just so high that I really can't even get my words out. High off life, high off the moment. Let me clarify, right? And so, thank you. Into the next stop. I'll see you right back here, like right here, right here. I'll probably be here. Or I might be somewhere. I might be in your city. Okay. Until then, I will see you right here. Be kind to yourself. Peace.